I welcome you to MA English first semester class on Maulana Azad studies. Today we are going to look at different aspects and sections of this course, that is Maulana Azad studies. I welcome you to this class, online class. You know that this is one of the core papers in MA English which we are dealing today, and it being the important paper, and we need to go through it from examination point of view as well. So the very first thing is that Maulana Azad is a name which we all are familiar with. At least all the students who are associated with Maulana Azad National Urdu University may know something or the other about Maulana Azad. And coming to Maulana Azad, his full name is Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, as we know. And he was born on 11th November 1888 in the holy city of Mecca, which is located in current or modern day Saudi Arabia. And it is a holy city where we, as Muslims and Muslims from across the globe, go for pilgrimage. Now, his actual name, his full name and actual name was Abul Kalam Ghulam Muhyiddin Ahmad. This is the name given by his parent, and later, after his contribution to the society, to the Indian society in particular, he became popular as Maulana Azad. Azad is his pen name, and which he adopted when he started writing. And Maulana Azad is not only known for his political leadership, but for his writings, for his journalistic career, for his vision which he laid out for education of the entire country post independence. He was married to Zulekha Begum, and Maulana Azad's mother was an Arab Muslim, while his father, Maulana Khairuddin, was a Muslim of Afghan origin. Maulana Azad did not receive any formal institutional education. He was born and brought up at home and educated at home. His father was a very learned person, so he made sure that his son, Maulana Azad, received best possible education within the convenience of home. So that is why he was taught Arabic, Persian, and other fields of knowledge as a child at home only. And though he was educated at home, because that was the norm in those days. Either students were going to madrasa or to some British schools, or they were taught at home. So right now, for us it may look slightly strange that is it possible for education to be given at home, but at that time that was possible. So that is why Maulana Khairuddin, the father of Maulana Azad, provided all necessary facilities for the education of his son Maulana Azad at home, and he hired different tutors to teach him Arabic, Persian, and other knowledge. Now, because Maulana Azad was very sharp and very intelligent right from his childhood, he started learning things very quickly, and that is the reason he became well versed in Arabic, Urdu, Persian, English, and a lot of other knowledge. At the same time, he was a prolific scholar who wrote many works and interpreted Quran, Hadith, and Fiqh. He was brought up in an environment where religious education was equally emphasized. So that is the reason why Maulana Azad also learned about Quran, Hadith, and fiqh, Islamic fiqh, and that shaped his personality in the childhood, which had a great bearing throughout his life. Uh, Maulana Azad, was also a very good orator. I mean, there are incidents which show that as a child he used to deliver lectures uh, in home, at home, and wherever the opportunity was provided. He was from the childhood emerged as a good orator and somebody who has good readings, extensive readings, and who can write very well. Maulana Azad, as he was growing up as a youngster, he had a political bent of mind. He visited many countries such as Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and Turkey. These are the countries where uh, uh, supposedly there was an Islamic rule. So he was curious to see how these countries were performing as Islamic countries, countries where Islamic system was established. So that is one of the reason why, that is one of the purpose why Maulana Azad toured or visited these countries. And visits to all these countries gave him rich and varied exposure and experience of administration and other aspects of running a state. When he came back to India, it was the time post 1857 when the country had already started the first war of independence, and the people were displaying their protest against the British Raj, the cruelty being uh, uh, imposed, or the cruelty being faced by the locals from the administration, the British administration. So in this scenario, when Maulana Azad was growing up, and he saw that this system, the British system, the British rule in the country is not based on justice, and rights of the natives, the local people, are not being given. So in that particular scenario, he developed this spirit of fighting for the justice and right. And after his return to country from visiting Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and Turkey, he met Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, one of the key figures in the patriotic and nationalistic movement against the British. And also he met Sri Shyam Sundar Chakravarti. These two people actually became kind of a reason why Maulana Azad formally uh, came into mainstream Indian nationalist politics, and then he joined the movement against the British rule in India. I hope you are able to follow, and we are having a smooth uh, online session. Could you please text and confirm whether we are going smooth? Okay, thank you so much. Yes, so Maulana Azad, as I told you in the beginning, is a multi-talented figure, nationalist figure. He was at one side was a stalwart in Indian politics. At the same time, he was a renowned journalist of his time, and he was education visionary educational leader, and he was also a prolific writer. So there are various personality shades of Maulana Azad. So in this lecture, we are trying to look at different shades of his personality. We began with the brief overview of of Maulana Azad and his birth, right, and his education, and then his interest in politics, and then his formal entry into mainstream Indian struggle. So now we'll take one aspect of his personality at a time and see what kind of a contribution he has done in the area he ventured into, right? And I told you that people become great because they carry a great vision. So if your goal and vision is higher, and if your purpose is higher, then it is no doubt that that purpose will make you a great person, right? Uh, Whether it's countries that fight against a great purpose, or whether it is individuals who fight for a greater vision and better society. In each case, a country could become a great country, a society can become a great society, and a person can become an exemplary person. So when we talk about Maulana Azad, right, Maulana Azad, came in this world, in our society, at a time when the country was in a transition phase, a phase which started historically from 1857. That is the first, revolt of Indians against the British, uh, rule, and we perceive it as, the first war of independence. From that till 1947 is a, a rich, and interesting phase of Indian history where plenty of important things have happened, which later shaped the country right now we are in terms of its vision, in terms of its policies, in terms of its infrastructure, and in terms of overall culture we have in the country. So that is a phase from 1857 to 1947. So in this very critical phase of Indian history, and there emerges a figure as Maulana Azad, and it is this same phase where we have stalwarts like Mahatma Gandhi, right? Stalwarts as Jawaharlal Nehru and many other nationalist figures. So it was this time which acted as a fertile ground for leaders to emerge and become larger than life in society and in the country. So in this same fertile time, in this same interesting and fruitful time, Maulana Azad emerges on the nationalist scene. So as I told you, the whole struggle was against the British Raj. The attempt was to bring down the British government and have our own rule. We can in the Gandhian terminology we call it as Swaraj, self-rule. So the Indians who became aware of the injustices, cruelty, and oppressive system of the British, they made a call to the masses to join forces to defeat the British. Right. In those times, Maulana Azad also joins nationalist movement led by Congress, and they realize that we have to fight a system as huge and as vast and as powerful as British system with all our might, right? So every section of the society had the role to play, had the opportunity to contribute to bring down the British system and then bring our own self-rule, Swaraj, or independent country. So in that scenario, Maulana Azad, in the early 20th century, he comes on the Indian scene and he starts a new weekly paper named Al Hilal in 1912. Now the reason for the objective of starting Al Hilal is to expose and attack the British imperialism and colonialism in India. Now, as I told you that uh, people become great because of great vision or great purpose. Now, when an individual is fighting against the entire system, right, and the system is great, the system is very powerful, then the fate is definitely going to take that individual and make him great. So Maulana Azad has the vision to fight against the British imperialism and colonialism in India, because he was aware of the potential and the power of his pen. So he started a newspaper, a weekly newspaper, Al Hilal, in 1912. This newspaper is used to highlight the misdeeds and cruelties of the British in India. Now we know that if we speak against the existing government of the day, you are going to face challenges. There would be repercussions of speaking the truth to the power. And one important personality trait we can understand in Maulana Azad is that he was very brave. He was vocal and very brave. He knew that it is only through exposing the misdeeds and cruelties of the British that people of this country can be made aware, and there can be no other better means to take the message to masses except through mass communication mediums. So that is why Maulana Azad started Al Hilal, and this newspaper sold like anything. It became a fast-selling newspaper within Bengal. Al Hilal soon became a mouthpiece of and support for Indian nationalism. Hence, this paper was deemed by the British government as an anti-state propaganda and was banned in 1914. So within 2 years, with the popularity of the Al Hilal, the kind of content being written and published and publicized, the government came to know that this weekly newspaper in Urdu, edited by Maulana Azad, is becoming a headache, is actually making masses aware of the priorities of the British government, and motivating or instigating the masses to stand against the British government. So considering these as a threat, the government, after 2 years of its start, decided to ban it. Eventually, Al Hilal was banned, but we know that Maulana Azad had a vision, and he was brave and he was determined to pursue his objective. So as a result, Maulana Azad kept up the nationalist fervor with the publication of another paper, Al-Balagh, in 1915. So immediately, a year after banning of the first newspaper of Maulana Azad started another paper, Al-Balagh, with the name Al-Balagh in 1950. Because he has a vision and he was determined to go on exposing the British deeds, misdeeds, in fact. So he started another paper with the same purpose. This newspaper continued to foster the patriotism among the Indians. It was also meant to bridge the gap between Hindus and Muslims. So at the same time, Maulana Azad also realized that it is important to ignite the fire of patriotism among Indians, irrespective of their belonging, their caste, creed, religion. And also, Maulana Azad realized that it is important to come together, to join forces as Hindus and Muslims if we have to fight the British system. So one of the objectives of Al-Balagh was also to bridge the gap between Hindus and Muslims, or to work for Hindu-Muslim unity. Later we realize that this is the objective which was very dear to Maulana Azad till his last breath. He continued to speak for Hindu-Muslim unity through speeches, through writing, and through meetings, and in all possible ways. Yes, but the British government banned this publication as well and expelled Maulana Azad from Calcutta to Ranchi. Now, when they first banned Al-Hilal, right, the ground was that the newspaper became an anti-government or anti-state propaganda. That was the rationale for the British to ban Al-Hilal. So when Al-Balagh continued the legacy of Al-Hilal, right, and continued to speak against British government and instill patriotism among Indians and work towards Hindu-Muslim unity, again the government perceived that this kind of activities, this kind of writing is a real threat. So that is why they have banned Al-Balagh as well. And this time, they not only banned the newspaper published by Maulana Azad, they have also expelled Maulana Azad from his hometown, Calcutta, to completely another far away place, Ranchi. He was detained there in Ranchi and released only after the First World War in 1910. So he spent years in that detention. Now, after looking after having a brief overview of Maulana Azad as a journalist, now we'll move on to understand Maulana Azad as a leader. Now, when we say leader, here we primarily mean a political leader. So in Indian history, 1920s was kind of another turning point. It was a time when Gandhiji also joined the nationalist movement after his return from Africa. You know that he went to South Africa. He practiced there as a lawyer. And it is in 1920s that he came back to India and joined the nationalist movement to work for Indians and for Swaraj and bring down the British rule. Okay, so in this time, Maulana Azad had already attained the position of one of the central figures among various leaders of Indian National Congress. We know that there were multiple leaders who are trying to take the message of self-rule, of independence, of freedom to masses. So each leader was trying to convince their own community and beyond. So that is why we had Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, we had Jawaharlal Nehru, we had Mahatma Gandhi, we had Vallabhbhai Patel. Right. There are numerous such writers who were associated with Indian National Congress. And apart from Congress also, there were so many other leaders who were working for the same purpose of bringing down the British government. But within Congress, by 1920s, Maulana Azad attained such a prominence that he was elected the youngest president of All India National Congress in 1923. Right? If you go back to our previous slide, you know that he started his journalistic efforts in 1912, and in 1915 he started another, and by 1915, right after Albala, he was detained and expelled from Calcutta and sent to Ranchi, and he was detained there till 1920. So within next 3 years, his stature rose to such a prominence that he was elected the youngest president of All India National Congress. Okay, and he was again later he was again made president in 1940 as well. And 1930s and 40s was a time when Maulana Azad emerged as a confidante and trustworthy friend and advisor of Gandhiji. We know that Gandhiji was leading non-cooperation movement, and he was inviting people, Indians who were working for the British government in various positions, to not cooperate with the British in running the system. And non-cooperation movement also spread in the entire country. And Maulana Azad, being one of the confidante and trustworthy friend of Gandhiji, he supported the non-cooperation movement. And 1930s and 40s was also time when salt satyagraha happened, and it was also the time when the first government of India established as in 1935. A form of government, right? A limited form of government was given to Indians by the British in 1935. So that experiment also happened in these 1930s and 40s. But throughout, Maulana Azad remained close to Gandhiji, and Gandhiji also sought advice of Maulana Azad on variety of issues and in different situations. And we know that in 30s and 40s, especially in 40s, Indians were negotiating with the British government for self-rule. And as I told you, one attempt was the establishment of Government of India in 1935. In fact, for negotiation, various missions have come from the Britain to India to negotiate with Indians, especially in the leadership of Indian National Congress. So in these negotiations, in all these negotiations, Maulana Azad was on forefront, both as the president of Indian National Congress and also as an important figure in Congress. There were missions like Cripps mission, cabinet mission, and other missions. He was constantly consulted by Gandhiji, especially with respect to the matter of constitution. Maulana Azad was a key member among those who negotiated with Cripps and cabinet mission in 1942 and 1946 respectively. We can understand his leadership, his position as a leader, like in matters which would decide the fate of the country, and in no less than drafting the constitution, Maulana Azad was on the forefront, along with Gandhiji and other leaders. So he served in the Constitutional Assembly of India, which was set up to draft the Constitution of India. He was also an active member of Khilafat movement and was elected as the president of All India Khilafat Committee. In 30s and 40s, Khilafat movement was also there, and Maulana Azad, because of his personality, because of his stature in the Congress, he was also associated with Khilafat movement, and he was also elected as the president of All India Khilafat Committee. So these are few snippets from his life as leader. Now we'll move on to talk about Maulana Azad as educationist. We know for the fact that Maulana Azad was the first education minister of India after independence. When our country got freedom from the British rule, eventually in 1947, after almost a century struggle, right? We finally got freedom from the British, and after India got independence and the country was established through the constitution, Maulana Azad was made the first education minister. No leader in Congress had any doubt about Maulana Azad and his abilities, and they found it important and necessary that Maulana Azad shaped the vision, educational vision of the country. And that is why this very important ministry was given to Maulana Azad. And he being known among his peers as a very learned person who has expertise in a variety of languages and sciences. So that is the reason why he was chosen to lead the country in the education sector. He started working to promote peace and harmony along with the setting up of education infrastructure in the country. So you see, he was not only planning to establish a variety of educational institutions to educate masses. He was also at the same time has the vision to promote peace and harmony. One of the key focuses of Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad was to integrate religious education with secular education. Now, during the British period, India saw a variety of educational institutions being set up in the Indian territory. The British, after the 1835 war, a speech of Lord Macaulay in the Parliament, established different universities and colleges and schools across the length and breadth of India. But these institutions were Western, based on Western model, and they promoted Western education. And when Maulana Azad became the education minister, he realized the importance of integrating religious education along with the modern and secular education. He was of the opinion that the matter of religious education is very serious and it cannot be left to the religious leaders of the country, as education will be supremacist under their control and command. Now you see that when a modern nation is established and there are certain institutions which run religious education, Maulana Azad realized that we cannot leave the goal of educating masses to these limited institutions which were already working in the country, irrespective of the community, irrespective of the religion. So for a national vision and policy, he gave the idea of integrating religious education with secular education. He was committed to promote communal harmony and hence taught the students the common values and customs found in all religions, so that they could overcome any prejudice against each other. Now this is the same Maulana Azad who in 1910s and 10s onwards, in early 20th century onwards, was working on the objective through Al-Balagh and Al-Hilal and through his speeches to bridge the gap between Hindus and Muslims, to bring them together. So when he became education minister, he realized the importance of teaching students, young generations, the importance of their common values, customs, the values and customs that are found in each community, and those are the values which would bring communities together, which would bring people together, and thereby the vision of Hindu-Muslim unity will be materialized. So with this vision, Maulana Azad was working in the area of education. He established IITs. Today we know IITs as and IIMs as India's premier institutions. These are the institutions which produce some of the greatest minds of the side. And from these institutions, global companies, organizations hire Indians. So it was the vision of Maulana Azad that he established this IITs and IIMs. And he also, as part of his zeal, as part of his vision to integrate religious education along with secular education, he also revived Madrasa Islamia in Calcutta. And that re-inauguration was done by none other than Mahatma Gandhi. That madrasa was revived, and at that time Maulana Azad delivered a speech, and that we will learn in next class, hopefully. So he was working not only on secular education but also on religious education. He realized the importance of both secular and religious education. So these were some of the points when it comes to Maulana Azad as an educationist. And as I told you, he delivered one particular speech in at the time of inauguration of Madrasa Islamia in 1920. That also tells us or shows us what was in the mind of Maulana Azad when he was envisioning and implementing his vision for education in the country. Maulana Azad favored the idea of madrasas, places of learning, based on the Arabic model of learning. His setting up of the Madrasa Islamia in Ranchi and the upgradation of Madrasa Islamia in Kolkata in 1920 are good examples of his zeal. On the occasion of inauguration of Madrasa Islamia in Calcutta, Maulana Azad delivered a speech on 12 December 1920 in Calcutta. Actually, this madrasa had already been running, offering Islamic education at a middle level. Under the aegis of the non-cooperation movement, Maulana Azad took it upon himself to upgrade the madrasa and introduce higher study program. Now, it was difficult for the students to leave their modern education institutions run by British and come to a madrasa to receive higher education. But it was the charisma of Maulana Azad as education minister, and Maulana Azad as a leader, that he convinced students from the British-sponsored Calcutta Madrasa to join his Madrasa Islamia. He knew that compared to government-sponsored institutions, the indigenous Vidyapeeths and madrasas would not be very attractive, as they did not have the facilities or the support of government, machinery and funds. Now, Madrasa Islamia, being funded by public, may not be in a position to provide as much facilities as one gets in a government-sponsored madrasa. Yet, it was Maulana Azad and it was Gandhiji who was leading the non-cooperation movement, that their charisma attracted young learners to come and join Madrasa Islamia. But Maulana Azad believed that education cannot have only a mercenary goal. In order to realize the noble goal of acquiring values and learning, any sacrifice would be welcome. So he convinced the students that education cannot be only to earn a livelihood, to get a job. It is actually a noble endeavor aimed at acquiring values and learning. So for this, one has to sacrifice. And he was able to convince students and learners to join Madrasa Islamia. With this idea in mind, Maulana Azad went about many parts of India persuading the students studying in British-sponsored institutions to boycott their classes and join the Indian system of learning. So the logic with which Maulana Azad convinced students at the inauguration of Madrasa Islamia, the same logic he took to various parts of the country and persuaded students to leave British schools, British madrasas and join Indian system. Now, after understanding Maulana Azad, as a journalist, as educationist, we will now move on to Maulana Azad's work. In fact, Maulana Azad was a very prolific writer. He produced a lot of works. There are a few major works that must be discussed here. Among his important works is Tazkira, which is a kind of autobiographical writing about his family. Then Ghubar Khatir, and we have Abul Kalam Azad ki Kahani, Khud Unki Zubani, and India Wins Freedom. These are some noteworthy works of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and among these, India Wins Freedom stands out for a variety of reasons. In our next class, we'll go in detail about India Wins Freedom. But in this class, we'll try to have a brief overview of his writing endeavors. Now, these works of Maulana Azad are considered by many critics as semi-autobiographical that provide important information about Maulana Azad, his family, his childhood, his upbringing and education. In 1903, Maulana Azad emerged on the political horizon of India as a religious and social reformer. At the age of 16, he started editing his Lisanus Sidq, a magazine that promoted social reform and the Urdu language and culture. Now we realize that writing was Maulana Azad's forte. 16 is an age where many still don't decide what they are going to do about their life. It is at this stage Maulana Azad started a magazine with the name Lisanus Sidq to promote social reform and the Urdu language and culture. That is just the beginning of his writing or his career as a writer. He produced a mammoth work, that is his magnum opus, Tarjuman al-Quran, which is a translation and commentary on the Holy Quran, which runs into multiple volumes. He wrote about himself and his ancestors in his book Tazkira at the insistence of his friend Fazluddin Ahmad. His another important work is Ghubar Khatir, and it is also his last work published during his lifetime. Ghubar Khatir is actually a collection of letters written to his friend Habibur Rahman Khan Sherwani during his period of confinement in the Ahmednagar fort. And his last work, or the work which was published posthumously after his death, is India Wins Freedom. This book is a political autobiography published in 1959. Maulana Azad dedicated the book to Humayun Kabir, his secretary at the time, who later on painstakingly translated it into English. So with this, we have tried to understand different shades of personality of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, a great visionary, an exemplary leader, an educationist par excellence, and a prolific leader. To sum up, we have looked at Maulana Azad, his birth and his education, He was born in Makkah. He was raised in Kolkata. He was educated at home by his father and by other tutors, and he learned Arabic, Persian, English, and other sciences. And he was also a person who loved travel. So he visited different countries, gained rich experience, and when he came back, understanding the pulse of the nation, understanding the scenario and situation the country was going through, he joined Indian National Congress and emerged as the youngest president of the All India National Congress. And in his leadership as a key political figure in the memorable and important time frame in the Indian history where India was struggling to free itself from the British rule, Maulana Azad contributed immensely, not only leading the Congress, but also negotiating with different British missions in preparing the constitution, in supporting Mahatma Gandhi in his non-cooperation movement, and also he associated himself with Khilafat movement, and he was also elected president of the Khilafat movement conference. Apart from that, he produced a lot of works, both as journalist and as prose writer. As journalist, he started Al Hilal and Al Balagh to work towards exposing the misdeeds of the British government and bring Hindu Muslims together. And as prose writers, he wrote Tazkira, Gubare Khatir, Tarjuman al-Quran, India Means Freedom. All these works show that Maulana Azad lived a life with a vision to bring people together, to unite them, and to educate them. In his role as education minister, he promoted peace and harmony along with religious and secular education. So his contribution to the Indian society is an important chapter in the Indian history. And because of his contribution and because of his vision, the country is progressing in the education sector. And to honor Maulana Azad, there are numerous institutions in the country that were named after him by the government of India and by private parties. Maulana Azad National Urdu University is one such institution which was established as a university with the Act of Parliament in the name of Maulana Azad. So dear students, we have had a brief overview of the personality of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. In next class, which is tomorrow, we will look at different works of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad in detail and his other contributions, which would help us understand him better, understand the times he has lived in, and the contribution he has made. So with this, we shall end today's class. Thank you so much.